Hey guys, we're going to model some IKEA furniture, and this is that furniture here. Very simple stuff, rectangles and interlocking shapes. Shouldn't be too hard. Let's get right into it. Alright, this is what happens when you open Blender. You're confronted with all these millions of menus and this one cube with a camera and a light source. Now, if you're ever wondering what I'm clicking, you can look down here and you'll see when I do something, you'll see the key I'm pressing. Okay, so see that? I just went Control Z to undo, and that undid that. Okay, let's get right into it. Now, I know the dimensions of this thing because I have it in my house. So I measured it, and I'm going to show you how to model it. Right now, we need to just grab the default cube, and you can see its dimensions are 2, but 2 what? Right now it's 2 anything, so we need to change that. Go to Scene Properties and change that to Metric. It's in the Units panel, change to Metric. Okay, there we go, flipped over to meters. So let's change that now to 1.5 meters by 400 millimeters by 50 millimeters. Okay, and that is my top piece. Or actually, in this case, it'll be my bottom piece. So I want to also just move this up slightly so that this bottom is in line with this axis here. So that means I'll need to move it up 25 millimeters. There we go. Okay, looking good. What you'll have to do all the time in Blender is apply all these positions and scales, because what I've done here, by changing dimensions, it's actually scaled the object. So you can see that it's 0.075 of the original 2 meter cube. I want this to all be 0 and all these positions to be 0. So to do that, select the object and then go Control A and apply the location. See how that zeroed that down? Control A again, apply the rotation and scale, and that all went to scale of 1. It's just a good practice to do that because it could muck up what you're trying to do later if these are all out of whack. Okay, let's duplicate this piece here. Shift D to duplicate and right click to put it back into that spot there. So right clicking just puts it exactly where it was before. Now let's move it by entering a value of 1500 millimeters or 1.5 meters. There we go, great. Now let's apply the location to that one so it's back to 0. And should we apply the, no, let's leave that so that it's always referencing this one here. So I just undid that. I'm going to leave it at, so that it knows it's 1.5 meters up from there. Now let's grab this one again, Shift D, right click. This time I'm going to rotate. So 90 degrees. And I'm going to just manually move this over. Sorry. And manually move it up into place. Now, you can see it's a bit out. Let's just move it over. There we go. And I actually don't mind that this is slightly wrong, because when you look at the real thing, it's also slightly wrong. That's because when you assemble it, it's not perfect. There's always a little bit of tolerance. Could be 2 mils out, could be 3, 5 mils out. And when you render it, this will create a nice kind of look and give it more realism than if it was like precisely flush on. Okay, now we've got that in. Let's apply the location to this one. Oops. And apply the rotation and scale. And duplicate this, Shift D, and shift it over. It's going to be shifted over 1.45 meters. little bit too far. Let's bring it back in just ever so slightly off. Okay, that's good. Right, so we've got our outer frame. What I'm also going to do is just bring this in a little bit this way. So I just need to maybe make it not like that. Maybe make it 395 millimeters. And that's brought it in just ever so slightly. I'm just doing that so that I get that, again, that slight little, in this case, overhang here. Okay, great. Now, I need to add in these cross pieces, which are slightly smaller. But I'm still going to use this piece as something to duplicate. So I just duplicated it. I'm going to apply its rotation scale and apply its location. No, I'm not going to apply. Yes, I'm going to apply its location. Okay. Great. Now I'm going to adjust it so it's 15 millimeters thick. And just shift it back there. Okay. And let's apply its location. Great. Now what I want to do is move these over. This spacing here is 365 millimeters. So I applied my location, so these are all zeroed. So I can just put in 365 millimeters and over it goes. Now let's do a little trick. First let's apply its location and do a little trick where we, instead of duplicating this again and again, what we're going to do is add an array. And that's a special modifier that will allow us to do multiples of these. Uncheck relative offset and then make it constant offset. Change this constant offset to the 365 millimeter spacing that we wanted. Ooh, that didn't quite work. Let me just look into that. Okay, you see I hadn't fixed up my scale here. And that's what I mean by you've got to do this all the time to make sure that nothing with the modifiers goes wrong. So let's apply the rotation scale, get that back to 1 and see if it works now. Bingo. Okay, so yeah, just be careful of, you've got to apply all your rotation scales and locations. Now, this is just a matter of adding another one, and it puts it in exactly 365 mils again. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is apply this modifier. Right? So now this is kind of one thing. And I'm going to change this origin here so it's in the center. Origin to geometry puts it right in the center. Great. Duplicate, right click, rotate, 90 degrees. Look at that. Super. One tiny problem. This is too far. So I'm going to bring that back a bit. First of all, by applying my rotation and scale and by applying the location, and then bringing it in ever so slightly to that. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. That's looking pretty good. So if I render that in the Blender render engine, it's going to look something like that because my sun is not in the right place. Yeah, you can see my light source way over there. Let's bring it around the front. Okay. Render that. Yep. Let's fix up our camera. 0 to go into camera. Probably a bit more. Looking good. Now let's render that. Okay, you can see a couple of issues here that these boards are sticking out, so I need to kind of shrink them in a bit that way. So let's do that. Grab this one, and you can see it's this dimension here. It needs to come in a little more. There we go. Great, that's all fixed. And you can see that little kind of imperfection there. Just gives it a little bit of realism as to how it really is assembled. Now, let's add in a ground plane. So it's going to add in this ground plane here at 0. And bring it over here a bit. And S to scale it right up. Okay, and render that. Great. Not too bad. Okay, so that was the tutorial on how to quickly model easy shapes using the array modifier. This has just been a really quick introduction to show you how we go about modeling in Blender, and your challenge is to recreate that, and I want you to add in a little extra feature to this. IKEA has a lot of options. If you look at this, you can see they have a kind of extra desk that you can join to this thing. I want you to come up with another feature for this this piece of furniture. Maybe it's a desk that connects in this way. Maybe it's something that joins in the top. I don't know, up to you. Just have a play around and see if you can add in something more to this and post it in the studio. And yeah, good luck.